Good afternoon to all of you. Thanks for coming here. My name is Ramesh. I'm a senior computer scientist and evangelist at Adobe. And I have my colleague here, Harish, who will be doing the rest of the session after I finish my presentation. So what I'm going to talk about today is about how Adobe brings to the web richness based on the platform technologies that we have. Many of you may know that Adobe's crown jewels are essentially the PDF and the Flash platform. And what we're going to talk about more today is how we have built tools and technologies and services on top of the Flash platform so that you can make the web richer and make the experience for users a lot more seamless, better, and richer. So quick snapshot of what I'm going to cover today. We'll talk about how users interact with the web today and what we need to do to actually make the interaction more seamless and richer. The rich web is all about users demanding better experience. So we'll look at what we mean by better experience, and we'll derive from that some kind of requirements for a technology platform which will enable you to provide that kind of an experience. And then I'll go on to talk about how we can deliver rich experiences not only within a browser context, but also beyond the browser. More specifically, we will talk about AIR, and finally, what we will do is we will have Harish come up here and show you a few demos that he is going to code in front of you. Okay. Before we get into experience, we need to understand why we need to have this kind of an experience. So an experience is something when two bodies interact with each other, right? And you need some kind of engagement to happen between a user and an application in this case, right? And there are various forms of engagement that we're all familiar with. These could be, for example, as simple and inane as filling up something like your tax forms, which could be done on paper forms, or you could actually do it electronically also today. Or there could be someone who wants to convey some information, and he could be publishing it electronically, or he could be publishing it in the form of books and magazines, which you're all familiar with. Or today, we talk about rich internet applications, where people can have this application, they can interact with this application, and everything can happen within the context of the browser. And we can see how people can develop rich websites. And also, the web is becoming a lot richer today because users have access to creating content. The web is no longer a one-way street. It's no longer a one-to-many paradigm. It's a many-to-many paradigm. You and I are adding content to the web every minute, every day. So it's important to think about how we can look at web as a platform based on which you can build the next generation applications, which is all about creating good experience. Okay. Before we get into that, some kind of a context. Many of us, we think about, when we talk about interaction, you can think about optimizing two things. One is you can think about optimizing the process. Typically, people think about optimizing something like a cycle time of a process, or the cost of a process, or the resource allocation to a process, things like that. These are things that you're all familiar with, and this is the whole. This is what we've been doing for ages when we talk about things like automation, process automation, things like that. But I think what's important is also that you have to optimize the experience. The reason you have to optimize experience is because if you don't have a good experience, if you're having something like an e-commerce site, it's quite possible that people come to your site, but they have such a poor experience that they may actually drop off, right? And that could actually have business impact on your business. So it's important to actually optimize both process and experience, and this is where actually rich internet application technology comes into play. So you see today a lot of people who are building applications, they're not just building simple HTML applications, they're actually building a whole experience on the web there. And it's important to not just optimize process, but also optimize experience. I think it's easier to explain this with a simple example. So let me show you a demo. This is a demo where you can think about a process like filling up an insurance claims form. Let's say there's a car that you have, and let's say it was involved in some kind of an accident, and you need to fill up this form where you have to say what exactly happened, what is the make of your car, what color is it, where did the accident happen, what parts were damaged, and things like that. Instead of talking, I think I will show you the experience. So you can see here, this is the form that I'm going to fill for showing this experience, okay? So you have your vanilla stuff like filling up policy numbers and things like that. Okay, and then you can fill in your username. Now, one of the things with the rich web experiences, you want context-sensitive help, in-place help, and things like that. For example, you can do something like this here, right here, and you can see, if you forgot your username or something like that, you have help right there within the context of that particular control itself, where you can actually ask for help regarding this. These are some of the ordinary things that one would expect with a rich web application. So let me go to something more interesting. This again is just like filling up a form. You can fill up some things here, right? But let's go to something like vehicle description. Now we want to actually describe what your vehicle is, right? Let's say my vehicle was Toyota, and let's say I have this model, and let's say it's a gray color car. Let's see how this looks. Okay. And let's say this is not this color. You actually want to specify some other color, right? Your experience should be like this. There is no point in asking people to describe in exact terms what that color is and things like that, right? It's much more easier to give the user the right kind of tool so that he can specify the problem that he's dealing with. The most interesting part of this application is about how do you specify what really happened. Let's say, you had, you can see here, I've already actually indicated where the damage has happened, right? There is this damage here, and there is the damage to the front bumper. The front bumper is crashed, and the quarter panel is cracked. I can choose other things in case there is some other kind of damage that has happened. Then what I can do is, I can actually specify how the accident actually happened. So it will be nice if I can say something like this. This car was coming this way, and I came this way, and this is where the collision happened, right? After you do this, what will be really nice is, end of the day, you have to have paperwork, right? All of us still have to produce paperwork. So what you need to do is, you need to be able to save this, right? And not only that, you may probably want to generate something like a PDF document, and then mail it to somebody else to approve or process or do whatever. So this is an example of how even something as inane and boring as filling a form can be made really more interesting. Not only interesting, you can make it less error prone. Imagine describing something like an accident in words. You would use a gazillion words there to describe what actually happened. And many of those things may not necessarily be relevant from the point of view of claims processing. What you really need to know is, where did the damage happen? What is the actual type of damage? And then you need to be able to look up some kind of a database and say whether this is valid or not, and then award the person the right kind of claim. So this is an example of how you can take something like a form filling experience, which is usually about a business process, and you can make that business process a much more richer experience for users. So this is what we're talking about, what we mean by optimizing process and experience. But let's talk a little bit about web. Today it is actually the Web 2.0, and what I mean by Web 2.0 is that users matter a lot. We always are used to this adage of customer is king. I think today we have to think about it slightly differently. I think we have to say customer is king, no doubt, but users are royals too, because it's actually users who actually use the application, and sometimes a customer may not be necessarily the user of the application. They may just be doing something like an advertisement on this application, and therefore it is very important in the Web 2.0 world where users are actually king. So therefore, when user is king, and you're talking about a platform like the web, you have billions of users there. So you need to make the experience rich, to have their attention span, to have them loyal to you, right? So what are some of the requirements of the technology to create this kind of next generation experience? Obviously, we need a platform that is more global in reach, right? So web is today a platform like that. But just with a browser, you cannot deliver the kind of experience that we're talking about. You also need capabilities on the client side to deliver the kind of experience that we're talking about here. So what we can leverage here is the Flash Player's ubiquity. Flash Player is available on 99% of the desktop and several other devices. So it is possible for people to today build applications with a consistent look and feel, consistent experience across browsers, across operating systems, across devices, right? The more important thing about Web 2.0 is also about users participate in creation. So if you see here, I've used the word co-creators. Some of you might have read this recent book by C.K. Prahlad, where he talks about the paradigm as n equal to 1 and r equal to g. Today, Web 2.0 is all about delivering personalized, co-created experiences, right? It has to be personalized to every experience, and it has to be, you have to involve the user in the creation of such an experience. You have to involve the user in the creation of such technologies. And how can you do this on the web? Because the web has so many users out there. So the only way by which you can do this is if you can also use R equal to G, which is not just stay within your own companies and within your own firewall, involve resources from within your company, outside your project team, outside your department, the entire world if you can. And that's what R equal to G is in C.K. Prahlad's book. But anyway, the web is all about the web is also becoming social. Just as we are having rich technologies, the web is also becoming social. So we need to be able to create rich experiences that also are in the context of the social paradigms that we today see in many of the computing applications. Obviously, we need to have something that is scalable and yet flexible. Generally, we talk about only scalability, but if you have to create personalized experience, it better be flexible because every person wants an experience that is very specific to that person, right? And we also see the resurgence of several of the applications becoming platforms. You might have seen, for example, Yahoo come up with a recent open strategy. Google has their app engine. Amazon has been a platform company. So a lot of these companies have started exposing services. And today, you have several of these services available in the cloud there. And what application developers need to do is they need to think slightly differently. There are services out there, and I need to write service-oriented clients which can just tap into these services, and I should be able to build applications easily. That's the kind of applications that are being built today on the web. Right? And when you build these kinds of applications, and when you become something like a platform, you obviously need to have an operations management that is data-driven. Right? You cannot hire the entire world to become to serve the entire world. So obviously, you need to collect data about users. You need to analyze this data, and your operations management should be all about collecting data, analyzing them, and doing this. And in true Web 2.0 style, you also need to be able to share this with users themselves so that they can look at how others are using this, right? So these are some of the requirements of the next generation applications that people want to build today. So let me focus more on the experience aspect here. Right? The traditional web applications are where you would actually go to a web server and you would request for a page, and you would wait for that entire page to load, and then you do your work, and then you submit again, and you get the next page, and so on and so forth. But the rich internet applications allow you to break away from that page metaphor. Your entire application can now be a page. For example, what I show you here is a screenshot of an application that has been built with a component called Flexbook. And Harish is actually going to show you a demo later on which uses this component. So I'll not go into details here. But this entire application is just one page. And this application, ironically, is like a book. And the book has pages, so I should be able to flip through the pages all within one page. Right? So a rich internet application is something that will help you to go beyond the page metaphor. AJAX allows you to do it. So will Flex allow you to do it. And when you go beyond pages, you also need to provide some kind of a mechanism so that you can let people know how they are transitioning from one state of the application to the other state, which is why you need things like transitions and effects, right? So if, for example, I were to flip a page, I need to show the user, I need to inform the user that he's going from one state of the application to the other state. Therefore, you need to have the notion of states within the application. And when the user is traversing through the state diagram, you should be able to apply effects. So the other kind of experience that we are really interested in is having something that is cinematic, right? And why should the users always go to the data to get the data? How nice it would be if the data came to the user. So if you actually go to the Adobe store, you can check out this demo. There is an eBay desktop demo. If you actually wanted to get information on eBay, you would have to go to the eBay website, and then you would have to go and search, and you would have to go and do your bids and things like that. But how nice it would be if you were able to express what you're really interested in, and let's say you bid for something, and whenever your bid has been outbid by somebody else, you want the data to come to you. Whether you go to the site or not, the data should come to you. Now that is the paradigm that we're talking about, and it is possible to build these kinds of applications today with AIR, because AIR has inbuilt support for notifications and things like that. Again, we will showcase this to you in a demo later on, or you can come out to the lab and check this. Because the applications are actually becoming used in a social context, right? The entire social context should be available within your application. Now, what you see here is actually a document. It's a PDF document. And from within the PDF document here is about something like a budget. And there is somebody who has joined the marketing department recently, and he sees this spike here, and he's wondering, why there is suddenly such a spike, and he wants to get this clarification. So he should be able to, within the context of this application itself, go to something like search for experts. You can see a person here by name Frank Wolf, right? He should be able to look for experts, call him up right there within the application, chat with him, right? And get the resolution that he needs. And once he gets the resolution, in fact, he should be able to generate something like a purchase order right from within the application. Now, how did this entire workflow start? Perhaps you just got a PDF document which had all this logic built within you. So what we're talking about is applications will become inherently social, as in the context in which the user is also captured. And in this particular case, this is an enterprise application. So I should know who is there within the purchase department, who I can contact for what. All those details should be available right within my application, and I should be able to get in touch with those people. So the experience here that we're talking about is rich, seamless, and a network-aware experience. Needless to say, mashups. You should be able to do those immersive mashups. So if you were to be watching something like the California bike tour, that's the screenshot that you have here, you might not just want to see video here. You might want to actually, if you're actually watching this in the stadium or something like that, you would actually converse with your friend there. You would chat with him. You would do things like that. So you should be able to do that. Similarly, when you're watching something like a bike tour, you don't actually go and track every person there, right? You are interested in a few riders or just one particular team. So you want to just focus your attention on that. If there are multiple cameras covering this event, right, and you want to see only one particular camera, you should be able to do this. Right? So these kinds of applications are what we call as rich immersive experience. And it's not only sufficient that you provide this experience on the browser, you should be able to provide this on the desktop. Okay? And AIR is the technology which allows you to do that. AIR stands for Adobe Integrated Runtime, and it's a cross-platform development environment. You can develop AIR applications that can run on Windows and Mac, and we also have a Linux version that is out there in beta right now. So you can still build rich internet applications. These will be installed on your desktop just like conventional desktop applications, but they can talk to web services or REST services or any services that are exposed out there, and you can still make them behave like web applications. The more interesting aspect of the rich internet applications on the desktop are captured here. You should be able to build what are called as occasionally connected clients. Not always do you need to be connected to do the work that you need to do. For example, if you were to be browsing something like train arrival, departure schedules or something like that, that's the information that seldom changes. Why should you need to go to the web every time to do that? Whereas if you wanted to find something like availability of tickets, you obviously need to connect to the web to find out that. So how nice it will be if you can have some of the less frequently changing information already there on your desktop. Why should you go to the web to get this every time? Now, the problem is if you get it to the desktop, it is quite possible that these things do change. And when they do change, you want the synchronization of data to happen between what is there on the server, which is the truth, and what is there on your desktop, which might be out of date. And that synchronization should happen seamlessly and transparently. Now, AIR is a technology which allows you to build those kinds of applications. The other thing is, if you were to build an application which is a browser-based application, so internet application, we always think that they have to run within the browser. But we break the paradigm here. Why should they run within the browser? If they run within the browser, they're going to be limited by the Chrome of the browser, right? And you have to see so many other things that are not really parts of your applications. You would see something like a toolbar. You would see so many other things. How nice it will be if you can create a branded experience that is very specific to your company. So, for example, Nickelodeon did that. Right? You can see this. This is a window of the application that Nickelodeon has. Right? And when you have a desktop application, obviously you need to do things like be able to take content both from the web as well as from the desktop. So you should be able to take, for example, some file from your desktop and drag and drop it into this application, and the application should consume the data and do whatever processing it needs to do. Harish is going to show you a demo of how actually this works. Okay. And the most important thing is, when you're doing this, it will be nice if you can build the application in such a way that you build the application for the web browser, and more or less the same code works also for your desktop application. you don't want to have two different code bases. How nice it will be again if you can have one code base or a majority of the code base that runs on the browser be reusable for your desktop application. Again, we will demonstrate that to you. Now, AIR is something that we launched early this year in February, March. And, but people have been using AIR for quite some time now. Even during the beta period, there have been a lot of companies that have been using AIR. And these are some of the companies that have been using AIR. Just to give you a flair for what an AIR application looks like, I'm going to show you a quick demo. So this is an application called the Anthropologie Desktop Boutique. Okay, what you see here is the application that I have. It is out of date. Remember, this is a desktop application I have installed, and now I'm getting a message here that there is a new version of this application, and if I want, I can install it. Right? I can go ahead and upgrade. So AIR also has support for doing seamless upgrades. So let's say I have already given you an AIR application, version 1.0, and then I come up with some bug fixes or some new features and things like that. You obviously have a concern. How am I going to get this? How am I going to distribute this? You don't have to do too much because the AIR SDK has features within it for you to do things like seamless upgrades. So I'm not going to accept this update now. Okay. So if you see here, this is how the Anthropologie desktop looks like. It is not using the Chrome of the operating system nor of the browser. It has completely the Anthropologie brand here. Okay. You can do things that you would normally do with something like a magazine. Imagine if Anthropologie were to do something like a mail order catalog. They would probably mail you, their catalog in paper form, and this might probably look something like this, right? And you can look at various items within it. You can see how they look and things like that. But let me do something that's more interesting. Let's say I'm interested in looking for sandals. Okay. And I really like this design, but I just want to see how good this looks when I look it up from close, right? So if I were to actually go to a shop, I would actually pick up that item, bring it close to me, and then I would inspect how nice the craft work is. I can do something like that here. Now, this is the kind of applications that people like today. And let's say I really like this. I want to say, I may buy this later. I can add a note to this, and I'm done. If I wanted, I could actually go and look at this sandal again and see whether there are other colors and things like that. This happens to be in only one color, but let's say it was available in other colors. I would see some other colors here, and I could see how the same footwear looks in other colors. Okay. But a more interesting thing that we can do is we can actually do search by colors. Let me look for things that are all in a particular color. Let's say I'm interested in things that are in blue. Okay, and you can see the catalog provided to you in a different way. And you can do things like what I mentioned earlier. You can do something else as well. Let's say you have some other picture. Let's say I want to buy sandals for Rakhi Sawant. What I can do is I can actually drag and drop this picture here. And then I can choose some color from right here, right? And this looks good for her. I could do things like this. So this entire application is actually a desktop application. And right now, of course, I'm connected, but it's quite possible that I'm not connected to the net. But that's not a problem because the way this application works is the entire catalog can be pushed to me, and it could be there on my SQLite database that is shipped as part of the AIR runtime. And then whenever there is a catalog update, when there is a new item or when an item goes out of stock or the price changes, that data can be pushed to my desktop. The data comes to me. I did not go to the I need not go to the Anthropologie website to get all this data. So this is briefly what AIR is capable of. And there are many companies that are building AIR applications today. But what makes this even more interesting is when you can build applications that can also run on devices, consumer devices. These could be phones, these could be large screen objects, objects with large screens like kiosks, or it could be things like set-top boxes, things like that. So what we want to do is we want to enable people to write applications for even these kinds of consumer devices. And very recently, we made an announcement about the Open Screen project. And we have actually removed some of the restrictions that we used to conventionally have earlier. So the Swift file format, which is actually the file format of the content that Flash Player can play, is now open. The specifications are open. So what this means is others can actually write it's possible to write, for example, an open source Flash Player today. We've also done things like there is a porting layer API for the Flash Player on devices. That porting layer is now exposed. So if you wanted to port the device layer to a specific device, you could actually do that by taking this from Adobe. So just to kind of wrap up, when user is actually the king, the expectations are really high. And you need to provide very rich experiences. And what I mean by that is, just to recap, the cinematic experiences like what you saw with Anthropologie, or the integrated social networking experience where you saw this application from within a PDF, you could actually invoke somebody within your organization, have a chat with him. And you should be able to write applications that are network aware. The application should be able to work seamlessly, whether they are offline or whether they are connected, where the data actually comes to the user, where you can have video integrated with the application. If you go to the California bike tour demo, for want of time, I'm not going to show you that. You can actually see live video of the tour as it is going on, right? And the application should be able to run on the browser, on the desktop, and multiple devices. And how do we do all of this? We do all of this based on the platform technologies that we have. We started off with PostScript. If you're familiar with Adobe's history, PostScript is what we started with. But we have today PDF and Flash as the crest jewels of Adobe, and a lot of things are built on top of this. Be they servers and services like Adobe Lifecycle or Cold Fusion or Flash Media Server, or even services such as Adobe Scene 7 on Demand, which is an image manipulation service. We have frameworks such as Adobe Flex. We have client runtimes like Adobe AIR or the Flash Player. And we have tools for the developers and designers, right? Like the Creative Suite or the Flex Builder. And then we drink our own champagne. I don't want to say we eat our own dog food. We drink our own champagne because it's a rich web conference. So we built our own applications as well based on this. So the Adobe Media Player is a good example of how we have taken the AIR technology and built a media player on top of that. With this, what I want to do is I want to invite Harish on stage to show you some coding demos of Flex and AIR.
Do with it. So here is what I'm going to do. I have like 20 minutes with you guys. I'm going to like completely keep up that time, and we're going to build something using Flex. And it's like 3:30. This is the time I actually finish my lunch, come back, chat with my friends, come back to the office, and I don't feel like doing anything. This is the time of the day at office where I don't feel like doing anything. So what I typically do is go to one of those slides like Facebook, Flickr, or Orkut and just see pictures. This is what I keep doing. Ramesh didn't know about it. I'm just telling you guys today. This is what I keep doing. So one thing that I thought, why not go ahead and build something which would let you view pictures? See, viewing pictures is fine. You go and search on images.google.com. You can still view pictures. You can click on it and see it. How can you make a picture viewing experience interesting and write very, very little code? Though you saw a lot of nice, interesting demos go there, things flying around, nice experiences, cinematic data flows. All that stuff is cool. But what do I have to write to get these things going? If I have to write hundreds and thousands of lines of code, not useful. I'll still go back and write my HTML-based applications and be happy with it. So my idea of today's coding demo is I have written what is required to show you guys today. So what I'm showing you guys is what exactly I have written. And I'll show you what I achieved by writing that much code, and also tell you guys what you can typically get by adopting to one of these technologies, what experience you can build. That is just the perspective of what I'm going to do. So just to tell you guys what exactly I'm doing, I'm going to use the API that is coming from Flickr. Flickr is the photo sharing service of Yahoo. So I'm going to write a Flex application that brings down pictures based on your search from Flickr and shows it on your Flex application. Yeah, I know the problem statement or the work that I'm going to do doesn't sound like too exciting, but let's see how it turns out and how we are doing this thing. So just to get started, the two main aspects that comprises that constitutes a Flex application is MXML and ActionScript. So for the uninitiated folks, MXML is your regular HTML. If you write HTML for your UI in your regular web applications, this is our parallel to that. And if you write JavaScript for your client-side manipulation, we have something called ActionScript, which is purely based on ECMA4, which is what JavaScript is based on. So these are the two technologies that we will use to actually build our application. So to get started, so I'll just take you through the code. I mean, I'll run really quickly and I'll take questions at the end of it. So what we have is something called an application at the top layer of a Flex application. This is nothing but your topmost layer. This is how you define your application. It has got a set of pretty self-explanatory properties. Something like a horizontal gap, padding left, padding top, and stuff like that. So how far should we eat from the top? Your regular HTML stuff. And you have a couple of namespace notations. So that is typically for the components that you write and how do we scope them. So when you write custom components yourself, you don't want all of them to be scoped under your default package structure, so you scope them elsewhere. So to tell MXML where to gather them from, you actually specify the namespace aspect. So I have two of them set over there. Don't worry too much about the code that you see here. I'll come to that in a while. Is this font good enough at the last row? I suspect it is not. Okay, let me fix it for you guys. Okay. Hey, can I get this light switched off, please? Somebody at the console? Anybody in here? Knock, knock. Thank you. Is it better now? Is it worse? Okay, the light's back, please. I'm sorry. Is it better now? Or still bigger? Okay, I think I'll do 16. I think that should be good. I thought that was big. Isn't that big? I didn't hear that. Okay, 20. I heard you. This is a big hall. Yeah, okay. If it goes any further, I cannot quite see it in my monitor. So, yeah. So I'll read it out for you guys what is in there. So what I'm doing out here is I'm going to query a Flickr API that gives you the result as a list of pictures that is available for a particular search that you're doing. So what I do is I define something called an HTTP service, give it an ID, and say on result of it, do something. And say while you are trying to get the results, show a busy cursor. That's all I have written. Can you guys see that? This is the problem if I increase the font. I have to keep scrolling it. Is that good enough? Okay, thanks. I keep asking because I'm not sure. I can't see most of you guys in the back, so I'm not even sure if I'm actually boring you guys to death by saying all this stuff. So I'll just keep asking if it is fine. What I've done is I've just decided to create an HTTP service object in my MXML, which is going to connect to my Flickr API and bring down the set of images. So how do I make this happen? I wrote a very simple ActionScript code, which says do search. So do search sets a few properties to the HTTP service that you made. The first one is the URL. Which URL should I go and pull? So it's Flickr that is going to give me the stuff. So it's flickr.com/services/rest. And Flickr expects a few properties, like the method that you require and the API key and how many pictures per page and what is the tag that you require. So this is the code that I have written to actually poll the server and bring the pictures back. Now, before I go any further, I'll just run this code and let's see how this application looks like as of now. It doesn't do much as of now, but let's see what it does. Okay, pretty much nothing. I have something called a thumbnail view over there. I have a text input and a search. So what I typically want to do is, I need to type in that text input, hit search, and that search should call the doSearch method and do something. So let's see how I've defined the UI elements. This is massive for my monitor. So can you see the text input and a button? That is those two controls on top. And I have something called cube stack. I'll tell you what that is. It's just a stack of elements. If you want 3 or 4 of them to be stacked side by side and preferentially toggle that, you use a stack. So it's a peculiar kind of stack that I've used over here. Just defined a panel with a tile list in it. Tile list to show your images. Now this will make a whole lot of sense when I actually search for something. So let me go ahead and search for something interesting. Whether this is interesting or not is something totally debatable, but I'm going to search for it. Can you guys read that in the back? Okay, that's pretty much it. So it sent a request to the HTTP service. It actually got the images and it has actually populated it. I wrote like 7 lines of code to actually get this view running. So there are 3 factors that you need to pay attention to actually get your Flickr query to actually show a thumbnail list of images. It is 5 lines of code that I have written. So let me just show you the salient pieces of code that I have written. One is the HTTP query, and on result of the query, I'm saying an array collection called my images be populated with the result. Array collection called it my images, populated it. And what I'm saying is, come down here. I already have a tile list, which I created inside the panel. And I'm saying data provider is equal to open curly braces my images. The tile list actually understands how to parse this array collection, actually show you this list of images. How many of us think this is like totally exciting? I don't for once. Anybody thinks this is like super cool? I'll be happy if somebody says that. Okay, somebody actually feels it's super cool. Thanks a lot for that. So, but I personally don't think it is like something which you cannot do. You don't require Flex to do this. If I were trying to sell a technology or trying to market a technology or even talk to you guys by just showing this thing, I'll be like totally stupid, or possibly Adobe might fire me if I were to just show this and tell you guys. So let me go ahead and do something which is little more interesting. I don't want to see pictures like this. I want to see pictures in a little more interesting fashion. The same set of Kareena Kapoor pictures that I have gotten over here. I want to show it in a view which is a little more exciting. So what I will do is I have written a small component. Basically, like Ramesh said, the Flex SDK is open source. A lot of developers all around the world kind of tend to do a lot of stuff, taking the code, write components, kind of push them out to the internet, and people can just take them and modify them. So one of these guys wrote this interesting image viewer component. I just took it and did a few stuff onto it. So it's a built-in component. I don't have to write code for it. I just took that component and just attached a few elements to it, and let's see what we got. So let me add a little code. For the benefit of time, I have actually written some code from home. I'm going to copy paste that over here. Ideally, I would have wanted to write it right in front of you, but I have only like 15 minutes to do this whole thing, so sorry about that. So this is something which I call a fisheye view. Can anybody tell me what is a fisheye view? Have you ever seen how a thing looks if you look it through a fisheye lens? What happens is the thing actually is small towards the side, it kind of blows towards the center and kind of goes smaller. It's a very, very nice way of looking at an image. So let me see if I can create something like that to see these pictures. So here I go. I'm going to add a different stack over here, a second stack. So can you guys see the second panel, which has got something called the local : fisheye view. So this fisheye view is a small component that I wrote. It is very similar to a tile list, but it is a little more smarter. It will do little more exciting things for the works. So let's see how we can leverage this. So as you guys can see, the code is the same. Instead of the tile list that I used over there, I'm taking a class called Fisheye View and setting the data provider to the same my images that I got from the Flickr. So there is no processing. I'm not changing anything. I just took the same data source, just blindly went and set for this component. Now let's see how this component responds to this. I'm going to compile this and run this for you guys. Did we compile? I hope so. Okay. Okay, unfortunately, I'm not persisting anything, so I'll keep searching for the same thing over and over. I'll tell you how to persist data if it is once brought down as well. So why don't I just drink a little water? Yep. So this is the same view as we saw over there. Now, can you see the small button on the bottom? Small greater than symbol. Can all of us see that? So I have just put that button to go to the next stack, which is the next view that I added. Let's see how we are going there. So that is the cube stack that I added on top that actually does a 3D flip for you by default. So if you want to shift views, you do nothing. You just add a button and say, move to my next stack. It actually does a 3D transformation by default. So that component is plug and play for you. Tomorrow you want to write something for your production application, take that component, use it. You don't like that flip, you want to change it to flip towards the top, feel free, change the property, it will flip towards the top. So what I'm trying to say is, it's out of the box. You wrote nothing. Now just see this thumbnail list. This is also very similar to what you saw earlier, but only thing is, it works like this. So you can select something, it will stay selected. You can unselect something, move back, it goes back. So again, the point I would like to reiterate, it is still 3 or 4 lines of code that I added to my main application. And you already have 2 views with a cool 3D transformation, with a 2-dimensional fisheye effect, and all this for very, very little code. Now, was that better than the first one? How many of us think this was better than the first one? I didn't write the component, but I'm really glad you guys like it. So, I mean, this is how you should probably present images to people. You ever want to sell a stock photo or something, giving a fisheye view would really have a customer like me wanting to click on those pictures or moving my mouse over those pictures and stuff like that. Now, how many of us read those magazines, starting from India Today, ranging to Week, to Cosmopolitan, to the Music Rave magazine? How many of us read magazines on a daily basis? So do we like those gloss printed magazines? The feeling of the paper is really nice. Whether or not you like the content in it, it feels really nice to actually touch that paper and turn around. You suddenly feel very special. I've seen folks in airport, whether or not they know the stuff that is happening here, buy one of those books and just sit flipping it, just to show they are like incredibly busy. So the page metaphor is like really good. We are historically used to reading things by flipping pages. First page, then move it to the second page. So in internet, somehow, the page got a completely screwed up connotation in web 1.1. What happens is, a page is a page. You have to refresh and it loads back and you see it. Ramesh just hinted to you, what if we can flip something right within your application? How better can it be that you can actually flip images, like as in a book? So let's see how much code I'm writing to actually flip these images in a book-like metaphor. So let me go here and So just to make me look a little more, trustworthy, you can see the code block sizes. That code block and this code block are the same size, the unselected code block. So I'm going to copy paste that over here. Okay, so no difference again. Can you see a local column flexbook view instead of the earlier fisheye view? And you can see the property setter is the same. Data provider is equal to open quote, curly brace, my images. The backend data, no change. The same information that you got from the backend. I'm going to compile and run this thing, and let's see how this looks like. You might be wondering why the same Kareena Kapoor. Flickr seems to have almost all possible published images of Kareena Kapoor over there. I just looked at the feed. It said some 3 crore or 3 million something images available. I'm only getting 100 of them, and it's quite quick in here. So let me just move to the next view. So this is the previous fisheye. Now let's go to our third view that we added right now. All right. So how do you like this? Or just go here, drag this, just the way you would drag your page, and turn it, and leave it. Or move it around, or click it back. Just drag it around. These are the stuff that we do with the book. We just turn it, kind of bend it, fold it. It gives you that kind of a seamless experience right up here. So, all this, once again, the same point. After every 10 sentences, I reiterate the point. The same 5 lines. The component is already off the shelf. It is available. So, how do you like this one? Would you want to see pictures like this? Or is it too tacky? How many of us would like to see pictures like this? A lot of people like to see pictures like this. I already got a time card warning. I just have one more very, very interesting thing to show. It'll take 2 minutes. All this is on the browser right now, right? I wrote an application which actually connects to the internet. It's a proper mashup. It's going to Flickr, bringing down the images and showing it to you guys. How about getting this thing actually work on your desktop? Exactly like this. No strings attached. Whatever you see over there, you should see on your desktop. In a regular world, you have to program for it. Correct or not? You have to write your code to make that particular aspect happen. Now, what I am going to do is, I have copy-pasted this entire code into a different, make Flex Builder export into AIR. For want of time, I'm not going to copy-paste that again, but you guys can compare the code, what was in there. So let me just go there. I have something called image viewer AIR. So just to prove my point, it is the same code. You have the Fisheye View, you have the Flexbook View, and you have the panel. Okay, now I am going to run this AIR application and see how it is going to work. Okay, except for the background blue color, which I purposely took off to make it look like a desktop application typically has that grayish kind of look. So just to retain that, I have just taken the blue background up, but it's pretty much the same thing. Let's go here and say Kareena Kapoor and say search. It takes a while because we have not loaded it up for a very long time. It's the same picture. So it is the same code. It's actually running on your desktop right now. It's a desktop application. Now let's make it a little more interesting. Now, how about this? You have the same page flip view here. You can go back. You can go here, and you can give you the same picture here. Now, most of us are actually on our headphones, aren't we, when we are working in the office? Listening to music and stuff like that when you are actually doing work. Especially when I am watching pictures, when I'm actually looking at picture slideshows, I am almost always on my headphones. So why don't I do this? I have this MP3 over here. How about this? I just mashed up with the desktop. I just took a MP3 file from my desktop and just dragged and dropped into an image slideshow, and it automatically starts playing. So that is just to convince the skeptics that this is actually a desktop application. It straight away took it from the desktop and put it over here. Now you want to add videos, start playing videos, we have it all in there. This was just a small example that I wanted to show as to what AIR can give you by modifying none of your code base. Just a small catch here, to get those drag and drop working, I had to write extra code because that is a desktop feature and you have to write that code. Okay, I have 5 minutes left to take questions. I'll have Ramesh back in here. If you have any questions, we'll be very glad to take it. Sure. Yes, what you do is you go to the project menu and say export as .air file, double click and install it on your desktop. And just to add, it's not Windows specific, it will work seamlessly across Windows, Mac, and Linux, and it will look the same. It's entirely cross-platform.
So what are the limitations of exporting from web-based to desktop?
You don't code for the desktop at all. That's what I was trying to say. So whatever you coded for the web-based application, you're directly using. That is the primary benefit of actually going this way.
For example, I have some custom controls.
So your custom controls are in what language? So if the controls are in any standard format, like AIR to work on a desktop, you require the Adobe integrated runtime, which is a download from the Adobe website, and that's all. I'm sorry? It's platform independent. It will install on all across operating systems. It costs you, the runtime costs you nothing. Totally free. Yes, sir. Yes. This AIR application is 100% AJAX ready. You can mash up AJAX, Flex, sound, PDF, video, you name it, you can do it. Yes. Yes, yes.
You have extra API because their applications typically want to leverage the fact that they can do some group instances. For example, you may want to do things with drag and drop in the file system, or you want to store things in the file system, or you may want your application and business to go into the system tray so that when things like going to the system, you can pop up. So there are features of these features that are available to the desktop.
Can you be a little louder? I'm sorry. I can't see the person. As a web server or app server, this application would probably need that. We are agnostic about how your backend works. It's not required that you always require a backend tier to run an AIR application, but your web application has backend, no problem. It will work the same way. Huh? Yes? It's on Flex. It's on Flex. Fisheye is also available. It's free. You can just go and grab it. Next, somebody asked me something.
With your runtime, have you taken care of all the security?
Yes,
needs?
Adobe AIR Runtime has its own sandbox, which is totally secure.
Okay.
As secure or more secure than your browser. Since your browser does not have desktop access, and AIR has desktop access, it is in our business that we keep it more secure than the browser.
Okay. Does it handle HTTP redirects?
If your HTTP tier does it, AIR will do it to you as well. Because we don't do anything specific to that.
Okay.
Free Eclipse plugin. We are trying to sell Flex Builder as one of our money-making aspect of this whole ecosystem, but we encourage people to write plugins across things. If you want to use other IDEs, feel free to do it. Builder is just an IDE, so your call.
Probably will also need to, you may want to profile the client-side application. So if you look at Flex Builder comes with a Flex profiler, right? So there is a debugger that's integrated. So Flex Builder will make you more productive, but Flex SDK is open source, and if you feel that you want to do some other things,
Yeah, there is no deterring factor that, oh, I have to buy Flex Builder. Encourage AIR to write your applications, but I can promise you guys will come back and buy the IDE because it really helps you quadruple your work, and it's not obscenely priced. You can check out the website for the price. There was a question. You want to take it?
tools that Adobe brings to the table for designers. The Creative Suite is an example of that. We have so many tools like Illustrator, Fireworks. Designers have always used so you can still continue to use those tools to build the kind of experience that you're talking about. And about the builder itself, you can do things like import some of the assets that you create from CS3 into this Flex. And you can do things like skinning very easily with Flex. So if you want to take a button, there's a view in the Flex Builder called the CSS editor, where you can actually just take a component and can create various skins with the same.
And fully CSS compliant. If you actually notice, my application actually looks like Macintosh. The view, the style of the buttons and all that, it's done using a CSS. If I take that off, it'll have a default view. So it's, yep. Right. So I mean, I'm not sure if I understood the entire question, but one aspect about AIR is it's already it has already built-in network tracking. If you're online and offline, based on the tracking information, it can actually bring views to the client which is using it. So when there's no connectivity, if you can push something onto another connected client, I'm not sure how that... Correct. Right. Uh-huh. Yes. The runtime does that for you. No, the point is you have to make a conscious programming effort to bring that data down to your cache. Because unless you are doing it, the runtime will not do it for you. For the straightforward security reasons, if you are bringing something to your file system, that is on will of yours. So the developer can code for an offline functionality. If the offline functionality is coded into your application, what you're saying will work. If the application is not built for offline, it will not work. Possibly not the component, the application in itself. So it's not within the scope of the component. It's the scope of the application whether it should be online or offline.
In simple term, what the...
Yep. Uh-huh. I think he is showing me a part time. Why don't I talk to you in detail as I come down from here? I might have to take you, but I'll definitely catch you right outside.
Thank you.